Let me tell you a story. A man I knew, let's call him Jake, was in love. The kind of love where you give everything, where you believe she's different. He spent years building a life with her, always showing up, always putting her first. Then one day, out of nowhere, she left. No real explanation, no second thoughts. Just a simple, I need to find myself. And just like that, everything he had invested in, his time, his energy, his love, meant nothing. At first, he was in denial. He thought, she'll realize her mistake. She'll come back. So he did what most men do. He reached out, sent messages, tried to remind her of what they had. He thought if he could just explain, she'd understand. But the more he chased, the more distant she became. She wasn't regretting her decision. She was getting validation from everyone around her. Her friends told her she deserved better. Social media filled her with dopamine hits from likes and comments, and maybe, just maybe, she had someone else lined up. Jake was hurting, broken, confused, and the worst part, she never admitted she made a mistake. Now here's the real lesson. Women don't regret immediately. Their pride, their social circle, their ability to move on quickly shields them, at least for a while. But here's where Jake went wrong. He begged for closure. What he didn't realize was that regret doesn't come from words. It comes from absence. From the moment she realizes she no longer has access to you. If you've ever been in a situation like this, comment yes below. If you've never experienced it, comment no. But trust me, one day you will. Now let's break down exactly why women don't regret immediately and how to make sure, if they ever do, it's too late. After Jake was left behind, he spent weeks in pain, waiting for the moment she would realize what she had lost. He kept checking his phone, hoping for a message, a sign that she missed him. But nothing came. Why? Because women don't regret immediately. When a woman leaves, she doesn't feel the loss the way you do, at least not at first. Instead, she feels validated. She's surrounded by people telling her she made the right choice. Her friends reassure her, you deserve better. Social media floods her with attention. Maybe there's even a new guy already waiting in the wings. This is the illusion of leveling up. Women are wired to follow their emotions, and in the immediate aftermath of a breakup, they feel free, empowered, and convinced they've made the right decision. The dopamine rush of being single again makes them believe they've moved on effortlessly. But here's what she doesn't realize. Regret isn't instant. It doesn't hit her in the moment. It creeps in slowly, like a shadow in the night. And the more a man begs, the longer she stays in that illusion. See, most men make the mistake of trying to force regret. They send long emotional messages, hoping she'll suddenly wake up and realize she lost something valuable. But the truth is, the more you try to remind her, the more she convinces herself she made the right choice. Why? Because of confirmation bias. Once she makes a decision, she'll look for every reason to believe it was the right one. If you're begging, pleading, showing desperation, she'll think, yep, I definitely made the right call. But what happens when you do the opposite? When you disappear? When you don't react? When you go completely silent? That's when the doubt begins. Because women don't regret based on what you say. They regret based on what they feel. And the moment she realizes you are no longer affected by her, her illusion starts to crack. Now, here's the real question. How do you make sure that by the time she regrets it, it's already too late? Jake made the mistake most men make. He tried to remind her of what they had. He thought if he could just say the right words, she'd realize she made a mistake. But the more he reached out, the less she cared. See, regret doesn't come from words. It comes from absence. The most powerful move a man can make after a breakup isn't an emotional text, an angry rant, or a desperate plea. It's complete and total silence. Why? Because women expect a reaction. They expect you to fight for them, to prove your love, to show how much they meant to you. And when you don't, that's when the real impact begins. This is psychological warfare. When you disappear, you create mystery. When you stay silent, you create doubt. When you show no emotion, you create uncertainty. And nothing unsettles a woman more than not knowing where she stands with you. At first, she'll feel relieved. She'll tell herself, good, he's gone. I made the right decision. But as time goes on, something shifts. She expects you to break, to show signs that you're still affected. And when you don't, that's when her mind starts playing tricks on her. She'll start wondering, Did I misjudge him? Was he actually better than I thought? Why isn't he reacting? And the longer you stay silent, the deeper these thoughts sink in. This is the power of detachment. Because while she's caught in an emotional spiral, wondering if she made the wrong choice, you're already moving forward. Most men will fail at this. They'll break the silence too soon. They'll check her social media, like a post, respond to a random message, and the moment they do, the power shifts back to her. But the man who masters true indifference, he becomes untouchable. Because the moment you stop reacting, she starts to regret. Now, here's the next crucial step. How do you control your emotions so well that you never break? The hardest part about walking away isn't the silence. It's controlling the emotions that come with it. Jake thought he was doing well. He stopped texting, stopped checking her social media, stopped reacting. But inside, he was still hoping she'd reach out, still wondering if she missed him, still waiting for some kind of validation. And that's where most men fail. See, true strength isn't about pretending you don't care, it's about actually not caring. A weak man suppresses his emotions, holds back his urges, but deep down he's still controlled by them. A strong man, a stoic man, acknowledges his emotions but doesn't let them dictate his actions. He understands that pain is temporary, but dignity is forever. That chasing someone who left is the ultimate sign of weakness. Most men react out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten, fear that she'll move on and never look back. But here's the truth. She already made up her mind before she left. Your emotional reaction won't change that. If anything, it only reinforces her decision. But when you master yourself, when you refuse to let external events shake your core, something changes. Instead of her seeing a broken man desperately trying to win her back, she sees a man who is unshaken, untouchable. And that is what triggers regret. Women live in the moment. They don't process loss the same way men do. When she left, she felt free, empowered, like she was making the right choice. But as time passes, she starts noticing the difference. She meets other men, but none of them have the same presence, the same strength, the same composure. And that's when the regret starts creeping in. Not because you convinced her, but because she convinced herself. But this only works if your emotional control is real. If you're faking it, hoping she'll come back, she'll sense it. Women are highly intuitive. They can feel when a man is truly detached and when he's just pretending. That's why Stoicism isn't just a tactic, it's a way of life. You detach from what you cannot control. You accept that people come and go, but your self-respect remains. From this moment forward, nothing she does should shake you. No random texts, no social media posts, no mentions from mutual friends. You react to nothing. You focus only on one thing, your own growth. Because the man who controls his emotions controls everything. But now, let's go even deeper. What if I told you there's a way to make her regret losing you without lifting a finger? Jake thought his silence was enough. He assumed that if he simply disappeared, she would come running back. But that's not how regret works. Women don't regret losing a man because he stops talking to them. They regret losing a man when they realize they can't reach him anymore. Mentally, emotionally, physically. The key isn't just silence, it's transformation. See, women are wired to desire what they can't have. It's human psychology. The moment something becomes unavailable, its perceived value increases. And nothing becomes more desirable than a man who was once accessible but is now completely out of reach. This is the power of psychological distance. When you vanish, you create an information gap, a void in her mind that her brain automatically tries to fill. And the less she knows, the more she wonders. At first, she'll convince herself she doesn't care. She'll go out, post pictures, live her best life. But deep down, she's waiting for a reaction. She expects you to watch, to like, to comment, to do something that shows you're still thinking about her. And when you don't, that's when the anxiety starts. She starts asking herself questions she never asked before. Why isn't he reacting? Has he moved on? Is he seeing someone else? And that's when regret begins. Not because she suddenly realizes your worth, but because she loses the certainty that she had power over you. Most men get this wrong. They think anger is power. That posting about how they're better off, making her jealous or trying to manipulate her will make her regret leaving. But anger still gives her attention. it still keeps her in control. True power comes from complete indifference. And here's the most brutal truth. She doesn't regret losing a man who begs. She regrets losing a man who thrives in silence, who vanishes, evolves, and never looks back. Because when a man becomes truly untouchable, she realizes something painful. He was the best she ever had, and now she can never have him again. So what's the next step? How do you make sure that by the time she regrets, it's already too late? Let's talk about the power of rebuilding in silence. Jake finally did something right. He went silent. No messages, no desperate attempts to get her back. But here's where most men fail. They think silence alone is enough, that if they just disappear, she'll magically regret everything. But regret doesn't come from absence alone. It comes from contrast, from seeing the version of you she once knew and the version of you she can never have again. The truth is, most men waste their silence. They sit around waiting for her to notice. They stalk her social media, hoping for a sign. They stay in the same place, unchanged, just hoping time will make her regret. And that's why nothing happens, because silence without transformation is just waiting. But the men who truly become untouchable, they use silence as a weapon, not against her, but for themselves. While she thinks you're stuck in the past, you're building your future. While she believes you're broken, you're becoming something greater. And by the time she realizes it, it's already too late. See, women don't regret instantly. They regret when they compare, when they see that you've become something they never expected. Maybe she meets someone new, but he lacks your presence, your confidence, your drive. Maybe she checks your profile and sees a man who's elevated beyond her reach. But here's the trick. You don't fake this. You don't post pictures to make her jealous. You don't try to prove anything. You simply disappear and improve in silence. No explanations, no announcements, just results. Because regret isn't about what she sees immediately after a breakup. It's about what she realizes over time. That while she thought she was leveling up, you were actually doing it. And nothing will hit her harder than knowing she left a man who only got better after she was gone. Now, let's talk about the inevitable. What happens when she finally tries to come back? Jake had finally moved on. He wasn't just pretending, he was thriving. His mind was sharper, his body stronger, his purpose clearer. And just when he least expected it, there it was. A notification, a random message, a comment on an old post. She was back. But here's the truth. Women don't come back because they miss you. They come back because they miss the power they once had over you. At first, she was sure she made the right choice. She convinced herself she had leveled up. But as time passed, something changed. The excitement faded. The validation wore off. And suddenly, the man she once dismissed started to feel irreplaceable. See, women crave certainty in relationships. They want to feel like they made the right decision. But when you vanish and improve, you introduce uncertainty. She thought you'd chase, but you didn't. She thought you'd stay stuck, but you grew. And now she starts to wonder. She'll test the waters with something small. A hey text, a random reaction to your story, a question that doesn't really need an answer. But don't be fooled. She's not reaching out because she cares. She's reaching out to see if she still has access to you. Most men fail at this moment. They get excited. They think this is it. She realized her mistake. They reply too quickly, engage in conversation, and fall right back into the same dynamic that made her leave in the first place. And the moment they do, she wins. She gets the validation she was looking for, and just like that, the regret disappears. But the men who truly rise, they understand that the real test isn't whether she comes back, it's whether you even care. So when she reaches out, you do nothing. No response, no engagement. Because a woman who truly regrets losing you won't send breadcrumbs. She won't play games. She will make it absolutely clear that she wants another chance. And even then, it's not about what she says. It's about what you have become in her absence. Now ask yourself, are you the man who gets excited when she comes back? Or the man who has already moved on? If you've made it this far, it means you're ready for the final lesson. The one truth that separates men who stay stuck in the past from men who rise beyond it. Let's talk about becoming the unshakable man. Jake thought the final test was her coming back. That once she regretted leaving, once she reached out, he had won. But that was just another illusion. Because the real victory, it isn't in making her regret. It's in reaching a point where her regret doesn't even matter. Most men go through breakups trying to prove something. They work out, make more money, improve themselves, all with the secret hope that one day she'll see what she lost. But here's the problem. As long as she is the reason you're improving, she still controls you. A truly unshakable man doesn't level up for revenge. He doesn't rebuild himself so she'll notice. He does it because he refuses to be anything less than his highest potential. The moment you shift your focus from trying to make her regret to simply becoming the best version of yourself, everything changes. This is where most men fail. They mistake external validation for internal growth. They want to be seen as strong rather than actually becoming strong. They want her to notice rather than realizing that what she thinks doesn't even matter anymore. And that's why so many men fall right back into the same trap when she finally reaches out. They think they've won, but the moment they engage, they're right back under her influence. But the man who truly rises, he reaches a level where no woman, no breakup, no loss can shake him. Because he understands that everything external, relationships, emotions, even people, are temporary. But his discipline, his purpose, his self-respect, that lasts forever. So ask yourself, is she the reason you're improving? Or are you improving because it's simply who you are now? If you're only leveling up to make her notice, you're still controlled by her. But if your transformation has nothing to do with her, if it's purely about you versus you, then congratulations, you've already won. Now, let's talk about the final lesson, the one truth that will set you apart from every other man who stays stuck in the past. Jake never got the closure he thought he needed. She never called him to admit she was wrong, never sent that long message apologizing for leaving. But by the time he realized it, he no longer cared. And that's when he knew he had already won. See, women will never openly admit they regret losing you. Their ego won't allow it. Even if she realizes she made a mistake, even if she starts comparing every man after you to what she lost, she'll never say it. She'll act like she's fine, like she's moved on, like she never thinks about you. But her actions will tell the truth. The way she randomly checks your stories, the way she suddenly accidentally crosses paths with you, the way mutual friends mention her name more often. Regret doesn't always come in words. It comes in silence, in hesitation, in forced indifference. But here's the part most men miss. You don't need to hear it, because at this point, it's not about her anymore. You've evolved beyond her. You're not the same man she left behind. You no longer seek validation from people who walked away. You're no longer waiting for closure, for explanations, for a sign that she still cares. You don't need it, because the real victory isn't making her regret, it's reaching a point where her regret is irrelevant. And that is what destroys her ego the most. Not your anger, not your sadness, your complete and total indifference. So now you have a choice. You can stay stuck in the past, obsessing over what was, waiting for her to come back, or you can walk forward, knowing that you were always the prize, that this was never about her. It was about you, about your discipline, your emotional control, your evolution into a man who cannot be shaken by loss. A man who doesn't seek validation, who doesn't break under pressure, who doesn't waste time on people who walked away. Because the ultimate flex isn't making her regret. It's becoming so powerful, so focused, so complete within yourself that her regret no longer matters. And when you reach that level, life rewards you. New opportunities, new connections, new levels of success, all things that were waiting for you once you let go of the past. So if you've made it this far, it means you're ready. Ready to rise above the pain, ready to become a man who commands respect, not chases it, ready to walk away like a king. If that's you, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment "I never look back" below, because the man who moves forward never loses, he only becomes greater. Until next time, stay strong, stay sharp, and keep moving forward.